count on a husband for something. I want to give the worship team another round of applause. And then you guys sing worship. I can do that. So I'm so impressed and amazed. I'm thankful that y'all do that. That you come here Saturday nights and practice with Michelle and Alex and everyone else who participates. Thank you. Thank you for doing that for us. Well, we're in our last series, or our last Sunday, on the series we're calling Fallen Heroes. And Lance had shown some pictures of some fallen heroes that we have seen in movies and on Perez Hilton or wherever you name it. Right? Well, today, here's how I want to start. I want you to think for a minute about someone that you see every day, whether it's at school, in the classroom, maybe it's in the hallway, maybe it's on the sports field after practice, or maybe it's during play or musical practice. Wherever it is, you see someone every day, and this is someone that you ignore. You wouldn't be caught dead speaking to them, let alone look at them. God forbid you make eye contact with them. Right? Think of that person who that is. I'm a sinner myself. I have that person. I take our dog for a walk. I got a puppy for Christmas. And this woman would stop us all the time when we would walk. And I just got to a point where I want to walk my dog. I don't want to just stand here and talk and talk and talk. And so I've done a different route. And I'll admit that's wrong. It's wrong that I avoid her. And I might not avoid her because she has a bad reputation or because I don't want to be caught looking at her. But nevertheless, I still avoid her because I don't want to stand and talk. I just want to walk my dog. So the woman that I want to talk to you about today, she's one of those people that's been ignored. She's one of those people that's ostracized. She's not part of the in crowd. People talk about her behind her back all the time, yet they would never dare speak with her. She lives in a town called, or a city called Jericho. And she doesn't live in the city with everyone else. This woman, she lives on the outside of the city. There's this wall that's about 15 feet high, and there's two of them, about 15 feet apart, that surround this city. And she lives inside those walls because she's not part of society. Now think about that for a minute. Okay, so the story about this woman named Rahab who lives in the city walls takes place in the book of Joshua. Now a little bit of history here. Nate had spoken to us about Moses last week and the falls that he had in his life. Well, Moses was the great hero who led the Israelites, God's people, out of Egypt. Yet, Moses never made it out of the desert. And I'm sure Nate explained why last week. Well, today, our story of Rahab takes place during a period of a man named Joshua. Joshua was appointed after Moses to be the leader of God's people. And it was Joshua's appointment to bring God's people, the Israelites, into the promised land, this land that he'd been promising them. It'd be kind of like, hey, sir, you know, you're going to live in the Trethaway's house one day. Maybe not today, but trust me, one day you'll live in the Trethaway's house. Okay, God, no clue how I'm going to do that. Well, one day, I'll be living in Trethaway's house. I think I'd rather live in Italy, maybe Hawaii, but okay, you said the Trethaway's house. I'm going to trust you, God. We're going to Trethaway's house. So here's what Joshua has to do at first. God tells him, okay, you're my new leader. You're bringing the people into the promised land. Like anyone, he needs a good strategy. You think about playing assassins your senior year in high school. You think about playing manhunt at night when it gets dark, right? You need a plan for how you're going to win. Well, Joshua, he needed a plan for how the heck he was going to take over the city called Jericho. So he takes two of his men in his army, right? And they're spies. And he sends them to this city called Jericho. And their plan was to map it out, right? Figure out what's the best way of us to invade the city that's surrounded by walls. 15 feet high walls. Can you imagine? I couldn't even get over that. I need a lot of help. So the beginning of Rahab's story takes place in the book of Joshua. And we're going to start looking at Joshua chapter 2, which Blair's going to plug for us. It says, Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go, look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, Look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy on the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy on the whole land." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I didn't know where they had come from." At dusk, when it was time to close the city gates, the men left. "I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them." But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax that she had laid on the roof. So the men, these are the men that the king had sent to her house, set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. So this gate, this city gate that Rahab lives in, she has these 2 spies who are part of Joshua's army hidden there, right? So first of all, these 2 men come in and they think they can sneak into the city of Jericho. Well, they look nothing like the inhabitants of Jericho. Imagine like when someone from Europe comes here, or maybe someone from South Africa. They stand out right away, right? They look different, they have an accent, everything's different about them. I remember when I went and lived in Italy for a bit, I was obsessed with getting different kinds of sneakers. I was like, "Mom, I need European sneakers. If I have sneakers, like real sneakers for running and playing soccer, I'm going to stand out like that, and they're going to know, American!" I don't want that. I want to blend in, right? So these 2 guys are trying to blend in, and clearly they don't blend in because someone tells the king, "Look, these 2 spies are here. And they're staying at this prostitute Rahab's house." So the king sends 2 of his guards to Rahab. And well, this could be Rahab's lucky day, right? No one's talking to her from town. And all of a sudden, the king sends 2 of his men to her house. Like, if I were Rahab, it would have been pretty easy to say, "Oh yeah, take them, they're right here. Am I part of society now? Do I fit in? Can I be part of the in crowd? You know, can you have me over for dinner? Can I come and live in your palace?" Yet what she does is completely different. What does she do? She tells the 2 guards, "Oh yeah, they came here." She couldn't deny that because everyone knew that they came to her house. But then she sends them in an opposite direction and tells them that they had left and go pursue them this way, when in fact she had them hiding in her house. Think about the decisions you make on a daily basis. The easy ones, the hard ones. Okay, it's Saturday, can I sleep in late? Yes. Someone wants to give me 2 tickets to One Direction. Yes, I'm there. I'm invited to be part of the test crew to play the new round or the new game of Black Ops 2, right? I'm there. Sign me up, right? Easy decision. But then you think about the hard decisions. Where do I want to go to college? Do I really want to live in New Jersey when I'm done in New Jersey with school? Who am I going to take to that concert with me if I only have 2 tickets? There are many hard decisions that we face in life, and they only get harder. The amazing thing about Rahab is that she was faced with a really difficult decision, a decision of life and death. To say that this king and his guards found these spies in Rahab's house, I'm sure she'd be done like that, right? So she's facing a decision of life and death. Well, here's what happens. Because you think, why the heavens would she risk her life for these 2 spies? Why would she let them hide in her house? And why would she lie to the king and say that they were gone? So the story continues, and it says, "Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up to the roof and said to them, 'I know that the Lord has given this land to you, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Seas for you.'" This is what they're talking about here is when Moses parted the Red Sea, when he was leading the Israelites, God's people, out of Egypt. So she says, we heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven and above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death." "Our lives for your lives," the men assured her. "If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully. when the Lord gives us the land." So she let them down from the roof of her house by a rope through the window. For the house she lived in was part of the city wall. Now she had said to them, "Go to the hills so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way." So we think, why the heck did this woman save these 2 spies? Why did she lie to the king? Well, she says right here, "I know that the Lord has given this land to you." Now, rumors have been flying about God, about this one God, and about God's people, the Israelites, how they were freed from slavery, how they parted this Red Sea with this guy named Moses, and all these miracles that were happening in the desert as they made their way closer and closer to the city of Jericho. And the promise that God was going to give them this land that did not belong to them. And so all of the people in Rahab's town were terrified. Yet, they didn't believe in God. They believed in many gods, they had many different beliefs, but Rahab had heard and took what she heard and put her faith in it. Now that's kind of really going by faith and not by sight. Because she didn't see Moses part the Red Sea. She didn't see them crossing through the desert. All that she had heard, she believed. And that's quite amazing. So she says, "I believe that your Lord, your God, is giving you this land." So she's believing that these 2 spies are coming here because God sent them, and that the land that she lives in is eventually going to be theirs. So she's clever once again. She's clever with the king and the king's guards by saying, "Hey, they went that way," and really they're in her house. And once again, she's clever because she says, "I believe in your God. And as I believe in your God and I know what you're here to do, will you protect me and my family?" So she's not only going out on a limb for herself, she wants to make sure she can protect her family. Which I think is interesting because nowhere in the text does it say what her relationship was like with her family. We know that she lived in the city wall, and I'm sure her family lived within the city, but what was her interaction, her contact like with them? That we don't know. So what happens is the 2 spies of Joshua's armies go back to Joshua and they tell him what happened. "Hey, we ran into this prostitute named Rahab, and she saved us, and she sent us this way, and the guards went that way, and now we're back, and here's how we're going to go into the city and invade it." That's great, right? So what happens is God then gives Joshua the plan of how they're going to invade the city. And God says, "Okay, here, Joshua, I know you had those 2 men invade the city and check out all the layout of it and figure out how you're going to invade. But here's my plan for you. The siege, the takeover of the city of Jericho, is going to last 7 days. And for 6 days in a row, once a day, you're going to march around that city. And on the 7th day, the day that you're actually going to invade it, at the time when you're done marching around it, there are going to be priests in this whole group of Israelites who are marching around the city. And when the priests sound their horn, okay, get this, when the priests sound their horn and your troop of military men shout, the wall's going to fall like this. No, you're not going to throw off a bomb and get it down that way. No, you're not going to use your brutal force and break down the wall. It's just going to collapse. So we look back at the story again, and here's an interesting thing what Joshua says to his troops before they go into battle. He says to them in Joshua 6, he says, the city of Jericho, and all that is in it is to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who were with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. So you can imagine, I would think, the fear that's in these people of Jericho, right? 6 days in a row, a huge army is tramping around your city. And then on the 7th day, can you imagine how terrified Rahab had to been? Like, she promised that she wouldn't tell anyone that these spies came. She protected them, she housed them. And what kind of guarantee did she have that they were going to protect her when they came in and killed everyone in her city? She had their word. How many of us trust people just on their word? So first she had faith to believe in God without seeing anything that he did. And now she's trusting his people based on their word. So here's what happens. On the 7th day of the siege, it says, when the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed.